So if indeed he is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, if we make him our plan, if we make him our goal, we won't miss the mark.
It's the never-changing truth in an ever-changing world. Now I'm changed by the word. Your cross gives me word. Your way is flawless, always there for us. Changed by the word. Changed by the word. Changed by the word.
Welcome to Changed by the Word. I'm your host, Jennifer Cotney. Changed by the Word is an outreach of the Gloucester County Community Church and is produced by the I Am Media Group. This week on Changed by the Word, we continue our study in the book of Revelation. Now, here is our teacher, Pastor Bruce Sophia.
So say with me, the book of Revelation. Study 2, chapter 1, verses 4 through 8. So if you're putting this together, this is our second study. Last week was really an introduction. This is, we're in chapter 1, and we're covering 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5 verses today. Isn't that amazing? We have 22 verses, 22 chapters, 21 verses. Think we'll get done it in a year? Last night they said, forever. Till Jesus comes back. I said, that works for me. But no, we, Lord willing, we'll finish this book in a year. You're going to be just, I don't know how to word it, enthralled with what it is we unveil as we walk through this book of Revelation. Now, in our introduction to the book, we laid the following foundation. 4 stones, if you please. First, God commands us to study eschatology. Now, what is eschatology? It is the events leading up to the end of the world as we know it. There's going to be a new world. The Bible says it's going to be exchanged, if you please, like a garment, a new heaven and a new earth. The new earth won't have any sea. There'll be no sun because he is the sun. And all that will unfold as we walk through this book. That's what's in store for us. So he tells us, study eschatology. Study the events that lead to the end of the world. Secondly, in studying this book, we are not to look for the when, W-H-E-N. Because when we look for the when, guaranteed, we'll get off track. From 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 to May the 21st, 2011, we will be off track. You can't focus on the when. The book isn't about the when. It's just simply giving us indications, signs of what's taking place, and then his coming is here. But don't get caught up in the when, because if you get caught up in the when, you're going to be off track. All you need to know is he is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. So if indeed he is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, if we make him our plan, if we make him our goal, we won't miss the mark. And that was the third foundation stone, was let's in this year 2014 make Jesus our plans every day. Make him our goal every day. And if you do, and you've had an absolutely horrible day, you know what that's like. You go home and you say, this was the worst day of my life. When you get to heaven, if he was your plan and he was your goal, you just very well might hear Jesus say, that was the best day of your life. And let me show you why. So he puts the little DV player in the unit and he starts to run it. And you see all the things you never saw, never knew existed in the worst day of your life. Make him your plan. Make him your goal. And you'll never have a bad day in your life. You might think you have, but you haven't. Look at it. Go with me to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. I'm not going to give you the page because Matthew's the first book in the New Testament. If you're looking in the Old, you're the wrong place. First book in the New Testament. Matthew chapter 6. And this is what we read. And if God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow, he will certainly care for you. That's for your pastor too, not just for you. So don't worry about these things saying, what shall we eat? What shall we drink? What shall we wear? Read verse 32 with me. These things dominate, say that word with me, dominate the thoughts of unbelievers. Now, the Old English says the thoughts of the Gentiles. The Gentiles were considered unbelievers. The Jew was considered the believer. It's just terminology, spiritual terminology in the Bible. And I love the way this translation puts it. He says, these dominate the thoughts of the Gentile. If you please, those who don't believe. Because they don't realize they're just passing through. They don't realize they're strangers in this world. That we have a home and it's not here. You know, when I was growing up, we used to sing, this world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. We're passing through. You got a little extra for your money today. But your heavenly Father already, come on. Yes, so let's get practical. You know, we said the most difficult task of this book was making it practical. So I have to work at it. So I want to make this practical. Charlie, give me just a little more light in the balcony so I can see all the faces up there. Of course, I could be blinded by those 4 spotlights that are wiping me out, but that's okay. Okay, now look at this. Where are you, as a believer, living as an unbeliever? Where are you fretting, fuming, fussing about what it is you're going to wear, what it is you're going to eat, how it is, you're going to take care of the daily needs of life? That shouldn't even be a part of our conversation as believers. Jesus clearly says, I'm going to take care of this for you. Think about it. So, as a believer, where are you? Where am I living as an unbeliever? Is it in our connection with God? Like, God, where are you? This is what I've found. That in most cases, God hasn't gone anywhere. It's not God who moved, it's Bruce who moved. Now, I say in most cases, because there are times as believers where God will purposely be silent. And what is he doing? He's testing us. He's seeing if we believe when he's quiet, when he's silent. Are we willing to trust when it doesn't make sense? When we're not in control. By the way, when you're not in control, he is. It's a great place to be. So where are you living as an unbeliever? That is, you're just disconnected with God. Maybe, just maybe, there's sin in your life. That'll disconnect you with God every time. So, let me take the "you're" out and not preach to you. Let's just talk about it. Let's talk about Bruce Sophia. When I'm disconnected with God, in most instances, I have moved. God hadn't gone anywhere. And secondly, there's sin in my life. Can you believe there's sin in your pastor's life? Thank you for not shouting out, yes. That was comfortable to know. What is God's definition of sin? Think about it for a moment. He that knows to do right, you following me, Walt? I'm just making sure. He that knows to do, don't go to sleep on me. Okay, he that knows to do right. That's neat when you marry couples, because then you can like get him in church, you know. He that knows to do right and does it not, to him it's sin. So what's that mean? That means that if God has asked you to do something and you haven't done it, come on, it is sin. Or God has said to you, listen, I want you to remove this from your life, and you're just delaying because you like it. Say that with me. I like it. You're too quiet. I like it. That's sin. And so automatically there is a disconnect. Or are we living as unbelievers because of a fractured relationship with a brother or sister? And God has clearly told you to mend it. And in your pride, you refuse to do so. I don't care what is going right in your life or you think it is. If you have a fractured relationship with a brother or sister and you have refused to reconcile, it's sin. You know, those of us who are married, probably quite a few of us here this morning, husbands, you know what it's like. Cheryl say to me, honey, are you okay? And I'll say, I'm fine. She'll say, no, really, are you okay? And I'll say, no, honey, I'm okay. I really am. I'm just fine. And she'll say, you know, I've lived with you for like 38 years. I don't think you're fine. Got this, Jose? Follow me? And I'll say, no, honey, I really am. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Then a day or two later, I'll say, do you know what happened the other day? And she'll say, I knew it. Listen, if you don't resolve fractured relationships with brothers and sisters, you are a miserable person. And you take that miserableness out on everybody else around you. It's just a fact. And the church said, so God hasn't called us to live as unbelievers, disconnected from Him, disconnected from our brothers and sisters, fractured in our relationship with Him, just the opposite. Now that fracture can happen in a lot of ways, some of which you may have no control over. For instance, you can have an ex-spouse who called the police on you with a completely bogus report. Some of you have been there because I've heard it. You just got a hate text from a person who you thought was your friend. That can mess you up. Or someone you know and trusted slandered your reputation to the proprietor of the place that you just applied for a job. Or maybe someone slandered your reputation or the reputation of someone you love on, of all places, Facebook. Can you believe that they slandered me or somebody I love on Facebook? It's public. Everybody saw it. And it was a lie. Hey, maybe you're living as an unbeliever when it comes to your finances. Your finances are quickly going down the tube rather than up the market. And when that happens, what is our first response? Remember when Pastor John spoke the other week and he said, we have a tendency to default to our old nature. To put on the old suit. When John was preaching that sermon, I'm thinking most people wish they could put on their old suit. But not in that way. But I knew what he was talking about. He's saying we default to our own nature. We fall back to what we were so accustomed with in the world. And so what happens here is when those financial tests come, those stressful times, those straining times, we have a tendency to default to the flesh, see with eyes of flesh, rather than trust God, and we renege on the very discipline that promises us blessing. That's the tithe. Giving the 10%. That's our guarantee. Look at it. Look at Proverbs chapter 3, 9 and 10.